George might be quietly replacing Pepper as the sibling Evie grows to love most, if you know where to look. Hang tight, there's a golden nugget buried in the mess. Number 1. George was supposed to be the jealous one. If things keep going the way they're hinted at, George could end up being Evie's favorite sibling. And that's kind of suspicious. You'd expect the middle child to struggle, feel ignored, maybe act out. But all signs point to the opposite. George is being set up to thrive in this new role. No jealousy, no rivalry, just instant bonding. That doesn't match his usual behavior. He's never been the calm, responsible one. If he suddenly becomes the favorite, it means something's off. Maybe the writers are forcing a new role onto him. Or maybe George knows something we don't, and he's playing the long game. Number 2. Evie's birth feels more like a coronation. Evie wasn't born at home like Pepper or George. She arrived in London's St. Mary's Hospital, the same one used by real-life royalty. That's not a background detail, it's a red flag. For years, the Pig family lived a quiet village life with muddy puddles and budget problems. Suddenly, they can afford a $50,000 per day hospital? That's not a lucky upgrade, that's a cover-up. Something about Evie's arrival doesn't match the world we've seen before. If George starts getting royal treatment too, it won't be because he earned it. It'll be because he's part of something much bigger, maybe even something hidden. Number 3. The crown might not sit right with George. When Evie was born, a town crier shouted her name in the streets like she was heir to the throne. Nobody ever did that for George. Not when he was born, not even when he turned 3 and learned to say, "Dinosaur." This new royal energy isn't random, it's targeted. Someone wants Evie to be seen as more than just a baby. But if George is suddenly expected to treat her like royalty, the silence around his own status becomes suspicious. He was the golden child once. If he doesn't question this shift soon, it might mean he already knows something we don't. Number 4. The dinosaur bond might be manufactured. For a long time, George has been easy to label. He's quiet, sensitive, and emotionally attached to the things he loves. That's what made him different from Peppa. But now, all signs suggest that Evie might grow up with those exact same traits. It isn't shown as coincidence. It's being set up like a pattern. Not a sibling difference, but a sibling repeat. And if Evie is designed to reflect George's personality, that's not bonding, that's duplication. It raises one big question no one is asking yet. Why would the show give us 2 George unless the original is being slowly replaced? Number 5. Their bond might be built on a contradiction. George has always been linked to dinosaurs. That's his whole thing. But Evie is already being marked with ducks. It's on her bib, her branding, and even her logo. The show presents this like it means something, but then turns around and hints that she'll somehow connect deeply with George. That doesn't match. You can't claim they're growing close while giving them opposite symbolic identities unless the goal isn't realism. Maybe the contrast is intentional, like someone's testing which symbol wins out. If George drops his dinosaur for a duck, we'll know something strange is being rewritten behind the scenes. And now, your golden nugget of wisdom from Peppa Pig. Just because 2 people are close doesn't mean they have to be the same. You don't have to share every interest to share a strong bond. Real closeness comes from respect, not matching t-shirts or favorite animals. If someone loves ducks and you love dinosaurs, that doesn't mean you're growing apart. It just means you're both interesting in your own way. And that's actually better. Now tell us in the comments, what stuck with you from today's Golden Nugget? Have you ever felt pressure to match someone else just to stay close? Let's talk about it. Now that we've had our moment of wisdom, let's jump back into the strange clues piling up around George and why he might be climbing his way to Evie's number 1 spot. Number 6. Peppa might be creating her own replacement. Peppa has never been gentle with George. She talks over him, ignores how he feels, and acts like she's always right. That's not just personality. It's a pattern. And now that Evie's here, we're supposed to believe Peppa is surprised the baby prefers George? That doesn't track. Her behavior has been pushing him away for years. If Evie connects more with George, it won't be an accident. It will be a response. Peppa may think she's being left out, but she's been doing the leaving all along. If anyone made George the favorite, it might actually be Peppa herself. Number 7. George's sudden growth might be a cover-up. George has always been fragile. He cried when he lost toys, panicked when left alone, and depended on Peppa for everything. But now, just because Evie shows up, we're meant to accept that he's suddenly calm, wise, and emotionally stable. That's not growth. It's a rewrite. There's no build-up, no real struggle, no explanation for the shift. It feels like the show wants us to forget who George was so they can push this new version forward. If a child changes overnight without reason, you don't call it character development. You call it suspicious. Something is being hidden behind George's new personality. Number 8. Evie might be breaking the time loop for George. For 20 years, no one aged in Peppa's world. Birthdays happened, but time didn't move. Then Evie is born, and suddenly things start changing. George seems older, more mature, and the show hints that school progress is finally possible. But why now? And why does George seem to benefit first? It doesn't look random, it looks planned. If Evie's arrival triggered real-time progression, then someone or something wanted George to grow up just in time for her. That's not sibling bonding. That's a suspicious shift in the system. The only question is who decided George was ready and why it had to be now. Number 9. The crest might be hiding the real favorite. The Pig family's royal-style crest shows a dinosaur for George and a teddy for Peppa. But Evie, the most celebrated arrival yet, gets nothing clear. A duck appears, but it's never labeled as hers. That kind of silence is rarely accidental. If this new baby is meant to be the future of the family, why wasn't her symbol made official? Instead, George's dinosaur sits right in the center. That placement changes everything. It suggests he's still the true heir, not just the middle child. If the crest is hiding her role, maybe it's because George's role isn't done yet. Number 10. Peppa's role might have been reassigned without warning. The official claim was simple. Peppa would guide her baby sister. She would teach, support, and be the example. But what's actually happening doesn't match. Peppa barely interacts. When she does, it's cold or competitive. Meanwhile, George quietly fills the space she left empty. He plays with Evie, comforts her, and shows more warmth than Peppa ever does. This isn't a slow shift. It looks like a switch. Either Peppa's development was dropped without explanation, or her role was quietly handed over to George. And if that's true, the story's not just changing, it's rewriting who was meant to lead from the start. Number 11. Evie's mark might signal a hidden shift in power. Every pig in the family has the same round cheek marks. That rule was consistent for years. But when Evie arrived, she had a heart-shaped one instead. It stands out for a reason. A change in visual design usually means a shift in story focus. This kind of mark looks intentional, like a signal. George, who carried the emotional weight of the show, was never given anything unique. That contrast is hard to ignore. If Evie starts life with a symbol of love on her face, then maybe George wasn't the chosen one. Maybe he was just holding the spot. Number 12. Evie's birthplace might prove George was never meant to follow. Evie is born in London, surrounded by royal signals and public attention. The show builds it up like a shift in the story's center. But then, the family returns to the same countryside life, and nothing changes for George. That choice feels intentional. If Evie's future is tied to something grand, then keeping George stuck in the old setting may be a quiet way of separating their paths. He stays in the mud, while she rises in status. This could be more than lazy writing. It might be an early warning that George was never part of the long-term plan. Number 13. George's silence might be hiding a bigger shift. If Evie's birth comes with royal symbols, hospital fanfare, and a public announcement, that changes the entire family's position. George should be confused, upset, or at least curious. Instead, he reacts with nothing. No questions, no jealousy, no response at all. That's not emotional growth, that's erasure. A character who once cried over losing a balloon now calmly watches a sibling take the spotlight? This isn't natural development, it suggests something missing. Either George has been rewritten into a background figure, or he already knows what's coming and has been prepared. Either way, the silence feels like a warning. Number 14. George's missing birthday might be a deliberate erasure. George has existed on screen for 2 decades, yet the show has only marked his birthday once. Every other occasion, holidays, parties, even Peppa's moments, repeats without issue. Then Evie arrives, and her birth is treated like a royal event. We get the hospital, the announcement, the fanfare. Meanwhile, George quietly disappears into the background. That imbalance feels designed. It does not support the idea of growing sibling closeness. It rewrites George's place in the family. If the show avoids celebrating him while spotlighting her, it may be sending a quiet signal. One child's future is being promoted, while the other's is being buried. Number 15. The George-Evie bond might be manufactured for speed, not story. George and Evie are shown as naturally close. They play together, seem to understand each other, and are treated like a perfect pair. But none of that is earned. The show skips over their first reactions, any tension or moments of misunderstanding. There is no emotional buildup. It simply begins with connection, as if someone hit fast forward. This isn't how character development worked before. Peppa's friendships took time and effort, but here, the closeness feels artificial. If the show ignores how bonds actually form, it may not be telling a story anymore. It may just be installing an outcome it already chose. And that's our breakdown of the Peppa Pig universe, where logic takes a nap and mystery takes over. If Evie's the chosen one, does that mean George is being replaced or protected? Type your thoughts in the comments and stick around. We're just getting started.